the man can engage for 3 minutes. They don't have
it's an average.
It's a normal.
Very normal.
Thank you all for your overwhelming response on our previous 2 Take Charge episodes on workplace stress and everyday stresses of life, which especially targeted men's health. Today, we bring you Take Charge Talk Series episode 3. And it is a very scintillating and a hot topic that you cannot afford to miss out. Stress in your bedroom. I have with me my panel as before, Dr. Chatai, Flora and Vire. Flora is a brand manager for Ginsumin, which kindly hosts this and sponsors this show. So I welcome you all for this. Men don't talk aloud and women get affected and talk only amongst women. Even though we live in the 21st century and explicitly have information on every media, men shy away. Insider, a magazine, quotes, "Months without wanted physical touch can have adverse health impacts like increased anxiety, depression, and trouble sleeping. Lack of physical intimacy can also lead to touch starvation, contributing to loneliness, isolation, and even compromise your immune system." Today we have 2 important men here who are going to contribute immensely to this men's health section of stresses in the bedroom. I want to begin by asking Dr. Chitai, stress in the bedroom begins with expectations. There is romance, there is efforts to set the tone or turn on, there is foreplay to sex, as well as there is the actual performance. Now, how do men come to the fact that they rarely can discuss many of these and get down only to the actual performance?
Thank you very much, Rama, for having me. The topic of sex and the sexual behavior in human beings is extremely complex. So human beings perform far easier tasks in their lives. For example, eating. When I go to eat, all I need to have is appetite and the food. And it's so easy. There is hardly any emotional aspects to food. And unless if there's some special food that maybe my grandmother used to cook for me, that's when I'll add some emotion to it. There's, if you are playing football, there's hardly any emotion attached to it. You just kick the ball and follow the rules, and you're good to go. On the other hand, sexual behavior in human beings, it comes with some biological demand, some psychological demand, and some social aspects to it. So the biological demand, obviously we know that sexual activity is driven by hormones, so testosterone. So levels of testosterone also varies from person to person. And this also applies to women. Women also have some amounts of testosterone and estrogen, which is their main hormone. So how much hormone does someone have is an important implication. Then you can go to the whole aspect of physicality that can be affected by illness or other problems. So that is the sort of biological aspect to sexual behavior. Then the psychological and social aspect of behavior can be things like attraction, can be things like arousal, And then socially, there is the aspect of love itself, which is quite a complex component, very emotional aspect of the sexual behavior. So then, when you want to have all this well aligned, it becomes a big challenge. And for many, you realize that there could be some missing aspects. And I know that we are discussing how stress can also affect the sexual behavior or life in the bedroom, to put it more succinctly. So stress obviously can be a cause and effect of this problem. So one being stressed can affect their performance, and that stress itself can lead to more stress on the individual. Therefore, there is that what you can call bidirectional relationship. But put it more plainly to answer your question is that obviously men are expected to unquestionably perform in the bedroom as a sacred duty.
That is a very, very interesting point that you've actually picked up. And I don't think anyone could have said it better. Now this is very leading to my second question, because this is exactly what I'm going to ask you. What are the factors that actually affect men's performance in bed? Because it is so vital that we understand the physiological as well as the psychological factors, but what is it that actually affects? Like, there are hormones that you mentioned, and I just want to lead you as in when we go, but what do you think are the aspects of it? Please, let's begin with hormones.
So hormones is a good place to start, because
Absolutely.
we always start with biology.
Yeah.
All our human behavior comes from some biological drive somewhere. So your level of hormones can be, one. But I would want to think about it in terms of the physical body can be affected by diseases.
Yes.
Right? So aspects of diseases like diabetes, for example, affecting blood circulation, or diseases like hypertension.
Even simple fatigue that comes out of not having enough sugar balance in the body. Yeah.
Exactly. So these aspects, of the physical health of the person can affect their performance.
So what about lack of libido? Let me ask you.
Yeah, so lack of libido is sort of the overall outcome. Is the overall outcome when these things are not in balance, So when there's something wrong, that's when there'll be lack of libido, which itself, although it's more on the psychological aspect of it, so the libido itself is, the lack of the desire. It's more around the psychological aspect of the person, which itself can have its own factors, including traumas around sex. For example, there are people who are abused, so the interaction with sex is traumatic, either as children or adults in earlier relationships, so that can be one of the problems. Stress itself that they're experiencing from elsewhere. And, for men, most of the stress is also around money. So when the economy is doing badly, people also don't perform very well.
Not only in the bedroom, I guess it's also the workplace and other relationships that get affected. So it's part of course.
So issues of self-esteem,
Absolutely.
So there are people who simply have low self-esteem, and that affects them. Then the social aspects, of course, which has to do with the quality of the relationship between the two partners, can, of course, affect that performance.
And what about performance anxiety? That probably also contributes to non-performance in...
Yeah, so with regard to performance anxiety, you can look at it and make a comparison with football. Because this is about men, and men love football. So
the first love is always football.
Yes. So why is it that a very good player like Messi or Mbappe can go for a long time without scoring any goals? Suddenly they just they're no
lose
longer
confidence.
scoring, and even you find their coach coming and saying that as long as this player just makes some 2 assists in each match, I'm okay. So the coach sort of understands that this player may not even be in a good psychological position, but the same should apply to even sexual behavior. So someone who has been very good, for some reason can simply, it could be that Messi just missed a penalty, so as little slip, and the confidence can dip. When confidence dips, you find now you are messing in front of the goal.
Well, you're not wrong, doctor, but I think it's so easily understandable when you put it to the audience like that. But yes,
so that's where performance anxiety comes from. So one negative experience leading to overwhelming, focus on that negative performance, and then it goes down. So so the man may not want it repeated. So one thing to do is to avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things. But again, thinking about what a coach will do with a football player, we look at the encouragement that the coach will give, and then look at the fans also cheering.
Yeah.
So this fan,
Women should take note of the coaches and behave around the men.
Yes,
Build confidence.
So the women are the coach and the fan.
No, but
Yeah.
Who should be
understandingly,
cheering? Even when the player comes close to scoring, just cheer.
Yeah, you just
we get the message loud and clear. Don't we, Clara?
Noted.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Throw some light on things like erectile dysfunction, because this is an affair that is, I think, affecting a lot of men.
Yeah, so erectile dysfunction, a lot of it, again, is a factor of the physical health of the person. These days, we are living longer than a few years ago, maybe 100 years ago. Life expectancy, for example, in Kenya is around 64 years for men. Women, you are living longer by around 4 or 5 years. So we are generally living longer. The downside of living longer is that you live long enough to develop some problems, some health problems. One of them, which can be around erectile dysfunction, which can be caused by issues like diabetes, or which can be caused by issues around prostate. So almost, if everyone lives long enough, if a man lives to be 80, most likely they'll suffer from prostate issues. So generally, and lifestyle in general, lifestyle problems in general, is a problem. And so these are some of the sort of contributors, the common contributors that can lead to erectile dysfunction. But again, we keep in mind that it can be as a result of psychological issues. So generally it's not called erectile dysfunction, in that case, because there will be another psychological cause, but it will have the same effect. And then medication
drugs
that someone is using. So a lot of the medication that someone is using may have a negative effect on the person's ability.
So basically, the physical, mental, and the emotional well-being of the person is responsible for so many of the sexual health behaviors that affect the bedroom affairs.
Yes.
Another recently common problem that we are seeing, or rather has come to surface, is problems with premature ejaculation. And this is more sort of profoundly discussed only in certain platforms. It's not openly discussed, but I think men need to be made known or made aware. What is your take on that?
Yeah. One problem with the discussion around premature ejaculation is what is it? How long should sex be? How long should it go on?
Yeah.
Because when you look at human ancestors, like the mammals, their sexual activity lasts for seconds.
Literally, yes.
Yeah, but because now for human beings, our function of sexuality has increased to go beyond reproduction to pleasure, then people, expect prolonged, activity. But the experts themselves say that actually sexual activity for 3 minutes is enough.
More than
That's someone who can engage. If the man can engage for 3 minutes, they don't have
it's an average.
It's a normal.
Very normal.
Normal average.
It's a normal. So the point is also people should lower the expectations of each other, so that we don't create this unnecessary pressure and we feel dissatisfied. When people discuss amongst themselves in gossip clubs, a lot of times,
which women always do, doctor.
they lie to themselves, sometimes they lie to themselves, or they may appear. Everyone wants to put the best face,
The macho face.
the best facade, So, but I know that the most severe forms of premature ejaculation is where there is even no penetration. For instance, that is a more severe form. But all this can again be investigated. And for any behavior in humans or any problem in humans like that, should be weighed on the basis of frequency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if this is something that happens once a month, you know, for instance, and the other days things are okay, it's not something to speak about, you know. It is a one-off incident. You know, every person has a bad day in office once in a while.
A very nice way of putting it, but I guess
So
the crux of the matter is that if it stays for long, it is as good as chronic stress or something that is underlying, or we need to address it when it's
true. Yeah. So if it is you know, consistent, if it is worsening, you know, frequent, you know, possibly it needs to be investigated as to the reason. And I can say that, you know, we live in an age where there are many solutions around and experts who can advise people and find
Very well
solutions. So you don't have just to live with a problem.
exactly very well said. And men tend to take it to the ultimate before they want to see an expert or anything, but that will be later. I want to ask you, health in the bedroom. What can men learn and use to build confidence and performance? As a man, I think Vire can also get involved in the question, but I would love for you to have this discussion with us, because I think it will not only open eyes to men, it's also going to open eyes to the women who probably have a set mentality over what things should be in the bedroom.
Issues of confidence a lot of times are not just issues that are in the bedroom alone.
Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Yeah, so it could be a problem of confidence in many other activities. So where confidence is lacking, the cause can be investigated more broadly. Like, is it happening elsewhere? For instance, that people have social phobia.
Oh yes.
You know, social phobia. So that itself can be a problem, especially if the partner is new. You know, so it can just.
And if it is an intimidating female, I think it just blows the confidence to another level for me.
Yes, so it can be because of that or other reasons. So it's that question of investigating. However, again, as we say, that this is a complex behavior. It has to be looked at in terms of the intimacy between the two partners. How intimate are they? Is the relationship loving? You know, even this thing called love is extremely complex.
Absolutely.
It's extremely complex. You have to be attracted to the person.
There's a lot of mechanics to the whole.
You have to feel safe. You know,
trust and safe.
Is that environment giving you that? And then, you know, are the expectations reasonable? Again, from your partner. Now, is there open discussion? You know, is there open discussion? So obviously,
understanding. Each other.
And the best way to approach these issues is to just like people approach issues of infertility, is the open mind that there could be a challenge with one or the other.
From either sides.
Yes, it could be, you know, one or the other. So it's very important to approach it with the sort of an open mind, and people to discuss openly what they may need, because again, everyone is the best engineer of their own body. You are the best. You are the best professor of your own body. You know.
Being a nutritionist and a lifestyle consultant, I have also come to realize that simply foods can play an important role in every behavior, even the bedroom. For instance, I know of foods that can actually help enhance sexual health better. For instance, omegas or things like that can build on hormones that are probably low lying or balance out evenly, or even minerals like zinc that are even now prescribed by doctors for issues like prostate in men. They play a vital role in reproductive health and etc. So foods have come to really circle the area of, first, if you have a good physical healthy body physically, I think that in itself can enhance so many things underlying.
And going back to the example of the footballer, this nice striker, this Ronaldo, who has not scored for a while, if they just score once, they'll start scoring.
The confidence
That's
comes
what
back.
we realize. So sometimes people just need that boost.
One boost.
Just once,
Wherever it comes
And then
from.
everything comes.
and then everything rolls into
Place.
place.
And I know people actually come out to ask for things like supplements or drugs or any substances that can actually enhance such behavior or rather performance.
It's very dangerous to treat a symptom when there's an underlying cause that you're not addressing. So one has to go back to what is causing. So if there is something that can be done about the cause, then that should be addressed. If there's a remedy, an intervention that must be made, then it's important to start with the natural remedies. So start
very
with
good
the
point.
yeah.
Very
So start
good.
with the foods. Start with the maybe some supplements. Start with the go slow. After having addressed everything else, there's a lot of advice out there.
Yes.
But simply start slow before even we do the more advanced medication.
I want to throw the ball into Biri's court because I know of him having done the 21-kilometer marathon recently, and he's an exercise, I wouldn't call it addict, but an exercise believer. And he has greatly enhanced his physical body and self to bring out the healthier side of his system. So, Biri, in your own way, can you explain to us what it has done to you physically, mentally, and emotionally, and in the well-being?
When it comes to sex, I think to men, sex is usually tied with ego. It's very close to ego. So you feel you have to perform. There are certain expectations you have to meet, and when you don't feel you've met your expectation, you feel embarrassed. You feel ashamed.
Your own goals set apart from the expectations
of the partner. So that comes sometimes with exaggeration. So you find men exaggerating things because it's very close to how we feel about ourselves. So I think part of exercise, I think when I'm doing exercise, is that thinking of improving yourself, improving your health, improving your body, because you are thinking about how others view you, perceive you. So that even comes to sex. How does your partner perceive you? Are you weak? Are you strong? So issues of the bedroom have a very strong effect on our psychological state, and it can bring a lot of embarrassment if you have issues there. Sometimes you may go into the wrong thing, trying to abuse maybe things your friend tell you about, take this to perform better. So we get a lot of wrong advice and maybe go down the wrong path, because it's something you keep to yourself. It's very hard even to go see a doctor about it. You feel embarrassed. Absolutely. Or talk to someone about it. So maybe we can be advised on where to seek help, when to identify you have a problem, and when to seek help.
Flora, I want to also ask you about things like adaptogens that are now coming into light for using it for endurance and things like that, especially for men.
Adaptogens, of course, play a positive role, especially when it comes to sexual performance and generally overall performance, especially for men, because like we have repeatedly said, they help to bring out the feel-good hormones while lowering the stress hormones, and a happy man definitely performs better. So that's how adaptogens come into place to ensure that
does it for instance help with mood?
Definitely, because once the feel-good hormones are high, then the mood is definitely elevated, and a man who is happy performs better even in the bedroom.
Us men, we are always in the mood.
So a little stresses can
it's true. Yeah, stress does
affect, make you not score the goal.
Early goal.
Or have early goal.
It's still a goal.
Yes.
They all count.
But like we've learned, we need to cheer them, and
exactly.
It is a difficult
I think it's
thing
a very
to ask
valuable
for.
lesson.
But
You have to be very dramatic sometimes.
The cheering has to be loud.
Savvy men can't fake it. Like women do.
Sometimes when you think your neighbor can hear the cheering, you even feel better.
feel better. Women usually good at cheering,
Even when you walk out of the apartment, you can.
even on the performance.
Oh, that's taking this to another level. Oh yeah, but definitely this throws light on a lot of perspectives that we really need to internally, I think, change about men, and especially because it's November, I think it's Men's Health Month. This just comes valuable for both men and women. Coming back to this, porn is extensive. What is your take on that? Because is it used as a means or a way to enhance performance, or what is the impact that it really has? Because it needs to be unveiled.
I think one question that people can ask is whether there is any role for, this, we call it erotic material. It can be videos, it can be literature, and these things are very old in human societies. They've been there. You see even old paintings,
Caveman.
Yes. So these things are not just new. They do not come with the internet, the way sometimes you want to imagine. So I believe perhaps one role that these kinds of material play is education. I know that there are some therapists whom a couple will go to and they recommend that watch together. So that is it's one of the interventions that is known. And one aspect of it is that the idea of education. Can people learn something from it?
It's a healthier way of looking at it.
Yeah, can people learn something? Is it filling a gap of education? Because in our traditional societies, sex education used to come from a few people within the family, maybe your uncles or aunties.
And is that healthy?
So I think I like that model because the expectation obviously is that your parent will teach you, but they don't. The parent is embarrassed.
I think that tradition has broken down because even in a tribe, even the girls used to be taken to a certain auntie to train them. But since we are now urbanized, I think that has broken down. Like for me, the first, because you can't talk about it to your parents, so you have to search for yourself, and usually that's where you end up at porn. And maybe you learn the wrong thing. Maybe you develop wrong expectations. You think this is what I'm supposed to do, and it may end up to affecting you wrongly. Because obviously, sometimes what you see you can't do. So it affects your esteem.
For women, if they learn about sex education from sites like porn, then they also tend to have high expectations from what men should be able to deliver.
that statement out, because this is what is happening. So your measure of your own man tends to go higher.
So that can contribute
and
to more
also,
stress and more anxiety and poor performance.
This is also one of the probably reasons for non-performance or poor performance.
So probably we could think more about sex education, because parents leave that role to teachers. And then teachers are also unable to provide the right instruction.
Yes, exactly.
The teachers are also embarrassed.
Especially when you are going through the change in your teenage years. That's when you really need that good information. But I don't know, where do you get it?
So we have a society of adults with the wrong expectations, wrong exposures, some abuse mixed there. So these are the factors.
And also not to forget to mention the porn addictions that we're seeing through now.
Yes.
And I believe that is very disturbing for the mental setup for. Yeah,
it's because anything pleasurable you do, your brain releases dopamine. So even when you eat food, you release dopamine. But now, if it is extremely stimulating activity, there's a lot of dopamine that is released. So that kind of high release of dopamine can act like a drug. So it becomes a shortcut to attain pleasure. And so that shortcut then can compromise your other
So it becomes difficult for you to get actual pleasure from a real person. Because
your threshold goes high. Yeah. So
you have to do stranger and stranger things.
Is it healthy to discuss your expectations or the performance behaviors with your partner? And how far would we go in this current society? I think Vire can answer this before we take a call with.
I think discussing with a partner, usually you discuss when there's something wrong. Because it's not something maybe you discuss openly with your partner. Maybe when something goes wrong, that's when you'll be asked, what happened? And that may bring other issues. Because she'll say, what happened? That means you went somewhere else. Or am I fat? Or you don't like me anymore? So it may bring even more problems. So it is a big issue.
So it is an issue for men. But Flora, what do you think? How should men address this? Is it a healthy thing for them to discuss with us as women?
I think the healthiest way, of course, would be to discuss. But I think even we as women do not give men the chance and the platform to explain what could be the problem. Like Buddha said, we will jump into conclusions like he doesn't love me anymore, he doesn't
Suspicious.
like me. He's cheating, that's why he's not interested. Or what a man, how can he not?
Very interesting, audience, you must note this. Where to put the limit and where to question and when to argue and when to have a proper discussion and conversation. When to listen, yes, most important, I think we have to learn to
because they might be going through some actual
maybe stress at work or something.
Or some medical problem that you can even assist them to probably say, also like diabetes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Which now brings me to the question of when to seek help. When you start noticing that there is a pattern or a sort of chronic issue to this whole thing.
There's really no exact point when people must, where we can say that now this is when you must seek help. But help is good anyway, So at any point, help is good. Because even if you believe that your sex life is good, there's always an opportunity that you could learn something, that you could address something, So even for those who feel that they don't have much of a problem, it's always good to go to a psychologist and see if there's something you can improve. Run through some tests. For example, there are tests that that you can do to establish your satisfaction, your own satisfaction.
You mean it is
questionnaires,
a test?
Like questionnaires you can fill, and then you can establish whether you are satisfied or not. So these things are quite important that people can be able to get access. But generally, if there are now disagreements around these issues, if sometimes this can result into violence.
From who?
Understandably there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these are real things?
Yeah.
Absolutely, doctor.
Yeah, so people will feel that there's now some strain going on around these issues. It's always good to try and look out for a professional. It doesn't really matter whom you go to, whether it's a psychologist, whether it is a psychiatrist, and so on. The psychiatrist will be able to do some medical tests and establish whether there's an issue. The psychologist will do some psychological assessment to establish why this could be the problem. Human beings are so complex such that our past our past experiences can really affect our present through the unconscious part of our mind, unconsciously, so to say. So these things can be established. And
for instance, you were telling me that if I had a fight with my partner, it can actually reflect in these areas also because of sort of a mental block or a...
And if, for instance, your partner reminds you of someone from your past, even a relative who abused you, you may have a problem with them. These are some of the things that can affect people.
Very valid and interesting to this.
So where to seek help? You can seek help. You can come to a psychiatrist. You can go to a psychologist. A lot of the problems are psychological. So even when you go to a psychologist as a first stop, they'll determine whether to send you to a psychiatrist. And then you can also see a general practitioner. You can see a general practitioner who can also run tests, and if need be, they can refer you. And especially if it's in the context of other chronic diseases that may be present.
It's of importance for me to bring out the fact that when you have expectations, especially in that area, and when you don't know how to handle it, it can actually pour down into other areas of your life too. Like how we say that stresses of life affect performance, and similarly this also trickles down to the other side. So isn't it important? Like, what would you rate this as importance?
When there are stresses in the bedroom, I think everything else will be affected.
Yes.
Because sexuality is extremely important for human beings, because it almost comes down to the purpose of life. Why do we live? We live. One important aspect of living or purpose is to propagate ourselves, and sex is the way through which to propagate ourselves. So if there's a problem, then it will affect your other areas of life, and so
we are wired through evolution to sort of act this way, and this is why we need to.
Yeah, because if you are low in confidence in that area, it may spill over even to other work, sectors. To other things. Fantastic!
Wow, what a beautiful and a wonderful way of taking out information on this area, because I think this is not easily discussed. Societal pressures as well as taboos. We normally resort to friends or peers or people around us who are not going to really know our personal bedroom lives. So I think this is invaluable. I believe that this can actually be of help to many out there who don't even understand, or functionally they probably think there's something wrong with me, myself. So I believe that this sort of forums open out such misinterpretations in their own heads.
So I hope that also people should not always be catastrophic in the way they approach these issues. So
very well said.
Don't always
very
think
well
the worst.
Yeah. Absolutely.
When a problem
Help could
arises.
just be around the corner and you're probably missing out on life.
Yeah, true.
Like right now, when you face such issues, people are turning to supplements. Maybe you've been told by a friend that this can help you. So I don't know if abusing that can affect you in some way. If you're not solving the core problem and you're turning to supplements that kind of give temporary relief, how does that affect you in the
Actually,
long
not
term?
just supplements alone, maybe also
The traditional things.
other sort of medicines which are also sold over the counter. Maybe the doctor can highlight a little bit on what are the dangers of such.
Yes, that's an important
And what
facet
can men
also.
do to,
Some of this medication could have side effects. Probably if people are having heart diseases and so on, they could compromise the function there. Also, they can create a psychological dependence. Yeah,
Yes, dependence.
So you think you can't do it without this?
Yeah. Plus, I believe that medication should be the last resort when dealing with any, with such conditions, because a lot of times the medication will address the physical, but a lot of times the challenge is psychological. So
absolutely.
it's
And
better
also,
to
what
approach
with
it
the
that
side
way.
effects of such medication
Yeah.
that can actually harm you over other areas of life.
Yes.
So scientifically, I
so
think
the
that's
benefits are lesser
lesser.
than the
Yes.
risks
Yeah.
involved.
and
with that.
absolutely.
So maybe there are
Wow.
safer alternatives that
I think there must be safer alternatives, or men in the past times must also have had some, ways and means of having to deal with this. I'm sure this is not new to our lifestyle and societies.
Absolutely. Every society has its own performance enhancers. Nearly every society.
Yeah.
For example, in Uganda, they use Mulondo wine,
Yeah.
which is sold in supermarkets.
Wow.
And in Western Kenya, they use
Mkombero.
this root called Mkombero,
Yeah.
And Tanzania will have their own.
Yeah.
And then you hear people praising them, that they're
Yeah.
so powerful.
Yeah.
I don't know, but people should exercise discretion when trying out some of these. But every society has had its own sort of solutions to issues around performance.
No, this is absolutely enlightening. I think this is amazing a session for every one of us to take home, and we don't discuss this freely, and the society prevents us from really spilling out the beans in so many ways. And it's important even for young adults, because when they get into relationship, these are prerogatives that they can set and say that this is healthy and this is not healthy. And for that matter, I think awareness campaigns need to be done more on these kinds of sectors. Healthy sexual, health discussions and etc. So thank you for bringing this whole thing together. And not to forget our interesting sessions of rapid fire. I would want to put to test a few of these questions to our own benefit as well as for the audience, because this will sort of nicely give us an overview of what we've discussed in short, and also help us better understand what's the first thing that you would do and how quickly can you take response to such things in your bedroom. Are we ready
Yes, we are.
for rapid fire?
yes.
Good health is not necessarily crucial to healthy love and sex. True or false, Bure?
I think it's true, because when I'm having malaria, I don't think that issue is the first thing on my mind. We are dealing with being laid in bed. So I think having a healthy body also affects.
Matters.
Yeah.
Doctor?
Yeah, good health definitely does affect. So it's totally essential. And
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you're
Essential.
fighting for survival, then the sex is shut off.
Yeah.
For the
last
same
one.
thing.
Save the body first.
So survive first.
Absolutely. And even financial stresses or any other stresses for that matter can affect your physical body. So, lust for men important or love and understanding?
I think I'll rank lust first, then love will come second.
Lust first. Wow,
Yeah.
that's from a man. I take
But-
all this.
But that's what we always thinking about anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Doctor, what is your take on that?
I think it's because it comes first. It comes first, so someone has to be attracted
Yeah.
to the other. A lot of times it's not very clean.
First you deal with the last, then you will discover the person later. Maybe she has a personality.
Love takes time.
Yeah.
Time is not always there.
First things first.
It shall come later.
Yeah.
But I like the answers. Men are being honest here on
Yeah.
this platform.
First
Flora.
things first.
So, please take note. Respecting your partner increases attraction but makes man vulnerable. True or false?
I think it's false, because I think having respect, I think, builds a relationship, and a good relationship also affects.
down.
Yeah.
What do you think, Doctor?
Yeah, that's a very ideal answer from Buire, that respect, builds a stronger relationship. But men often feel vulnerable about it as well. So you feel, if I do all these things, probably I'm simping. There's this word called simping. So no one wants to be told that they're doing that or to be found, simping. So it becomes a problem, and especially, this idea of respect, men always feel they should receive it, not
Rather
give.
than give it.
Give it.
Yeah.
And I think it's also an eye-opener for women, because we also tend to not respect our partners in so many ways. And when you complain of not having a good relationship in the bedroom, I believe that respect also needs to be considered from the women's end. So absolutely a brilliant idea. I think
Sure.
this is respect first, and then everything else will trickle down.
But
by
of course, respect is a two-way traffic.
true faith,
So
yeah, of course.
I have to get respect in order to give
Give it,
respect.
yeah.
Do women want love or respect?
It's difficult.
That is we want everything.
Men are very clear. They just
Yeah, we are clear what we want.
We want
we are
both.
clear.
We
They
want
are very clear. The next question for Buire is porn healthy or damaging to performance?
I think it's damaging because it skews your perception and expectation, especially when you start very early. I think it's quite damaging, I think.
And it gives you unrealistic.
Yeah, unrealistic, yeah.
And doctor?
I think it's damaging unless if the context is defined as both partners agreeing to it, and
And
it
as
being
you
very-
rightly said, fill the gaps. I
Yes,
guess, when it
and
does the job.
it's good to be aware of the dangers.
Fantastic. Using therapy or supplements to increase performance and libido is not considered manly.
I think therapy will be the very, very last resort. As a man, I think I'd rather reach for a supplement, because therapy, that means I'm opening up to someone about my sexual problem, which is quite unlikely. So I'd rather reach for a quick supplement that solves the immediate problem. Yeah.
Doctor, what's your take on this?
Again, what is easy to reach for is not often the
The
safest.
best. Yeah.
So perhaps maybe that's what we've been doing, reaching out for something immediately to fix ourselves. But therapy can help us in the long run, because again, you want to live a longer life,
Yes,
to enjoy these things.
And the fact that men don't open up brings me to a very interesting thought process. I don't know if Flora will agree with me. I wonder, and I begin to wonder now at this point in time, men are more actually complex than women, isn't it? I don't know what the
Well-
audience thinks, but
I hear there are books there's a book I saw that's very huge. Finally, a book to understand women. So
we should have the
1,000
similar one
pages.
for-
Ours will be a leaflet, how to understand
but
men.
we think men are harder to, of course, understand.
Romance is necessary only for women. Man has nothing to gain from this. Myth or truth?
Half myth, half truth. I think romance has to play a part, because it builds that attraction, that relationship. It creates a positive environment for the other activities. So I think it's important. Yeah.
The fact that men attach less emotion to
Plays an important role.
To sex, they attach less emotion than and romance is sort of that emotional aspect of it, and so on. So I think that's why for
That's
men.
very well explained in your
Yes.
earlier conversation itself. So
Yeah.
I get the point. But thank you for reinstating that. Emotional well-being is mainly ignored in bedrooms. True or false?
True. Men are more interested in the action than the emotions. Sometimes when emotions come too much, it's like you said she's being emotional. You think of it as a problem. You don't think of it as something to discuss. So you want to do a bit and...
You're more focused on the goal.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes also a man can think about this emotional outpouring in the bedroom as a form of a trap.
You start thinking what's going on,
Yeah, when men have their vulnerable moments.
Because you don't know how to react.
To actually demand.
Yeah, a lot of women I think get a lot out of the bank accounts of men at that point in time.
It's the right time to ask for the bank pin.
Yeah.
Talking to your partner about performance issues, does it affect a relationship in the long run or improve it?
Talking, I think it may help, though men don't do it very much. But I think it will help, but I don't think we talk too much about it.
So what a paradox
Yeah.
to the whole affair.
Yeah.
Doctor, what's your take?
It definitely improves.
It improves.
Yeah, it improves.
So men should start opening up
Talking,
to whoever it is.
Yeah,
not
and ladies should be learned to listen.
Yeah.
a very, very good point.
So
And
what I'm
actually
getting is that women have a lot of role to play. as well
in this,
men's-
absolutely.
Yeah.
Although we label it as men's affairs, I think women are crucial to playing this and perfecting the whole act. Absolutely. Exercise can help improve libido and sexual health.
I think very much so, because when you're unfit, you're also lethargic in those bedroom matters. So I think fitness does.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
the doctor also is going to agree. to
Agreed.
this.
Yeah.
Eating right is essential for only physical health.
A balanced diet is important for physical and mental well-being.
Exactly. And also the emotional side of it.
Yes.
We feed our emotions only with our food as well, so definitely there. And also I want to throw light on the fact that unless you have physical health in place, nothing else really comes to force. It cannot really happen that you are in pain or in any kind of stress or non-well-being that you can actually go and perform anything for that matter, leave alone bedroom.
It's interesting because from my perspective, I'm biased towards mental health. So for me, I say that if I have two people, one in good physical health and poor mental health, and person B, good mental health and poor physical health, the person with the good physical health and poor mental health may easily lose their physical health. But the person with good mental health, even if they have some injury or some physical thing going on, they'll recover more quickly. So,
Very, very valid point brought out. Absolutely. And I think this is more towards the attitude and the well-being of the mental state of affairs. And yes, this is very, very important and crucial to even bedroom affairs. Stresses in the bedroom can be half resolved with the mental acuity or the attitude towards how you deal with it. So brilliant, doctor. That is a very, very useful point to note. Seeing a counselor or a therapist for performance issues is still a hush-hush affair, further affecting men's confidence.
I think previously my thinking was seeing a counselor wasn't something that I thought about, but since we've talked about it today, I think the mental states I've learned affects the bedroom issue. So I think that is something I would consider.
And men should start talking to other men about such kinds of helps and why they should actually resort to. Would that be an opener for such?
yes, and as well as even on the therapist side, I think we need more specialization in areas of sexuality. So because if I wanted to see a psychologist who specializes in sexual problems, I don't know where to go. Most people don't know where to go.
Yes, that's another.
So we need people to specialize in these areas, so that they are known and they handle these problems.
And easily accessible also, because I think the confidentiality issues, or I come from the same tribe or the same area, or, all these things also probably matter. So definitely yes. Adaptogens like ginseng can improve mood, increase performance, and keep men healthy.
Adaptogens are good generally for men's health in matters to do with the improvement in performance, in combating fatigue as stress busters and energy boosters. And adaptogens like ginseng tend to increase alertness. And therefore, doctor has been talking about mental acuity as a good indication of someone who has better performance, whether it's at work, whether it's in the bedroom, wherever it can be, even maybe in sports also probably. So we've also been talking a lot about supplements, and a good supplement is one that also has a good adaptogen like ginseng. So this combination will help the body perform at its best by boosting the immunity because of the vitamins and minerals that are there, and also the power of ginseng, which is an adaptogen, for example. So this will help men perform better, and this is meant to help men especially tackle day-to-day stresses. Of course, they need to seek help where required, but instead of turning to unhealthy substances maybe that they've been advised by peers or friends, one such safe stuff they can take is something like a good multivitamin with, say, like a good adaptogen.
Can you also run us through how you should actually consume this? Because I think a lot of us do not understand, we just think we can just go pick it up and just take it at any time we want or with.
Adaptogens, it's not something you take, for example, like when you want to perform in bed, for example, and think that it should give you the quick fix. It's actually more of a lifestyle product that you have to incorporate in your day-to-day life. Make a habit of taking breakfast, which is also on its own a good thing. And then if you can combine a nice multivitamin with an adaptogen like ginseng with your breakfast, then it helps you stay alert. It helps you cope with the little stresses that you're bound to come about during the day. And it will definitely go a long way in making you handle those issues in a much, much better way. So it's something you need to incorporate in your lifestyle. But that does not mean that you should not check on underlying issues, like the doctor rightfully said. For example, if you have diabetes, you still have to
go to
see a doctor and get that checked. If you have chronic ailments, you still have to incorporate exercise, fitness, drinking plenty of healthy fluids like water, not just getting sugars or energy drinks, which might have a lot of side effects. So you still have to approach it from that angle and have a general improvement in your lifestyle. And therefore, these adaptogens will help you put it all together and take charge of your life.
And Rama, if I may ask Flora, are there any clinical trials perhaps that compare ginseng and non-performance enhancers like sildenafil?
Comparative studies might be rare because, first of all, the way they work are totally different. Things like sildenafil, of course, will give help in issues like erectile dysfunction, which is like a quick fix, but of course, like we said, the side effects are many. While something like ginseng is something that will slowly make the body adapt to stressful conditions. So most of the studies done, there are numerous studies done specifically on like Korean Panax ginseng, which is there in ginseng, and most of them were done specifically to look at the efficacy on whether it's true that taking these adaptogens can actually lead to an improvement in performance, improvement in mental alertness, and such kind of things. Energy, performance, vitality, and endurance. So most studies are actually done around that. So we cannot compare with sildenafil directly because they're too different to be compared.
Yeah, that puts it in a beautiful manner, because this is a topic, as I said, it's hot, scintillating, but we don't discuss it. And healthily bringing out such things, I think, helps for the benefit of the society and especially audience that are really not keen on speaking out. A lot of taboos, yes, but it's also the internal, the physiological differences that we have as men and women that we really don't address. So thank you, all of you. Doctor, especially you, because you've really taken us in depth into understanding so many things that we were actually not aware of. And Veere, thank you for sharing your personal experience, because it's amazing to see how a man's life and work and thinking and the possibilities of what all stresses that they go through and how it affects, of course, from the right number one episode that we've been discussing. I think it's really been so encouraging for others to learn as well as adopt what we need to do when we see things like that. And Flora, thank you for the platform that Jinsumin has kindly provided and all the information that you've kindly shared with us on Jinsumin. And I believe that we have to take charge, and everything lies in us. We have the control to our lives, whether you want to live healthily or whether you want to seek help or whether you want to self-help yourself. I think everything is a personal decision that you take towards your health and well-being. So the onus is upon us as individuals, and it is time that we take charge, and it is only time that we actually see that we make the society. So if we start from an individual perspective, it is upon us to change everything else that surrounds us. Flora.
The support has been overwhelming. There's been lots of questions. We will take time to address each and every one of them. For those who have done the stress test, thank you, and we hope that now you understand your situation better. Again, I request you to go to the description, click on the link. It will take you to a very easy to use questionnaire that will guide you through a few questions. In less than 5 minutes, you're able to understand your stress or mental status in a much better way. This is for both men and women, because like we have heard from the panelists, stress that affects women also affects men. So in as much as we are talking about men, women also have a role to play. So everyone can check their stress test. I believe that my stress test can also affect my spouse's mental status in life. We would also want to hear your feedback on what more topics we can talk about in regards to men's health. Of course, sponsored by Jinsomin. We hope to get more feedback from you and hear from you. Thank you.